Rain slid down the restaurant windows in thin silver lines, softening the neon glow outside into blurred streaks of pink and blue. Inside, the dinner crowd murmured over hot broth and sizzling plates, chopsticks clicking like quiet punctuation marks. No one paid attention to the girl slipping through the doorway, until she stumbled. Maya didn't mean to fall. Her knees simply gave out from the sprint she had been running for what felt like half her life. 1 second she was pushing through the door, the next she was collapsing onto the polished wood floor, her chest heaving, curls damp with rain and sweat. Her eyes darted around the room, frantic, searching for any exit besides the one she'd just come through. She saw him. Not her ex. Someone else. A man sitting alone in a corner booth, steam rising from the bowl in front of him. He was big, not by size, but by presence. Even seated, he radiated the still, controlled power of someone who never needed to raise his voice to be feared. His black hair was neatly combed, his charcoal suit crisp, his posture relaxed but watchful, observing the room the way a man accustomed to danger always did. Their eyes met for less than a second. But it was enough. A crash echoed outside. A man shouting her name. Maya's heart stopped. She didn't think. She didn't plan. She acted. The stranger in the booth barely raised an eyebrow when she ran straight toward him. His chopsticks paused midair as she skidded to a stop beside his table, breath tearing out of her lungs in small, desperate bursts. "Please," she whispered, voice trembling. "Help me. Just for a minute. I'll explain later." The front door rattled. Her ex was pushing it open. Panic clawed up her throat. She looked around wildly, searching for somewhere, anywhere, she could hide. There was nowhere. Except, she glanced at the stranger's booth. At the gap under the table. At the shadowed space between his legs. Absolutely not. Insane. Humiliating. Impossible. Yet the door burst open behind her, and her ex stepped in with fury carved across his face. Maya chose survival over pride. "Sorry," she whispered to the stranger as she dropped to her knees. His eyes widened a fraction, his jaw tensed, and a soft, startled breath escaped him as she crawled under the table, right between his legs, curling up small in the narrow space like a frightened kitten. She tugged the tablecloth down just as heavy boots stomped into the quiet restaurant. The man whose booth she had invaded didn't move. Didn't reveal her. Didn't even shift his posture, though Maya could feel the tension thrumming through him like a wire. She kept her hands close to her chest so she wouldn't accidentally touch him, but she could feel the heat of his body bracketed on either side of her, steady and grounding. His voice, when it came, was low. Controlled. An absolute ice. "Don't move," he murmured to her, almost soundless. She froze. Her ex stormed past tables, breath ragged, eyes wild. His clothes were half soaked from the rain, his anger dripping as loud as the water off his jacket. "You!" he shouted at the nearest waitress. A black girl, curls, yellow jacket. "You see her?" The waitress stiffened and shook her head. Maya curled tighter, her breath shaking. She felt the stranger's leg shift slightly, not pushing her away, but shielding her more completely from sight. Like he was making certain no one saw even a glimpse of her. Her ex slammed his palm on an empty table. The plates rattled. "Where the hell is she?" he growled. The stranger above her slowly set down his chopsticks. His movements were unhurried, polite, almost lazy. But Maya could feel from the shift of his legs that something inside him had sharpened. A chair scraped as her ex stalked closer to the stranger's booth. "You," her ex snarled. "You seen a girl run in here?" There was a pause, just long enough to thicken the air. Then the stranger spoke. His voice was soft. Nearly gentle. "No." Her ex scoffed. "She passed this way. Don't lie to me." Maya held her breath so hard her lungs burned. She could feel the stranger's knee tense beside her, and she prayed he wouldn't angle his leg accidentally into her face. But he moved with that same stunning, quiet control. "I said no," he repeated. Something in that tone made the room go still. Even Maya felt the shift. There was no threat in his voice. He didn't need one. The danger was simply there. Unmistakable. Her ex hesitated. Only for a second, but she felt it like a blessing. "What are you, huh?" her ex spat. "Some kind of big man around here?" The stranger didn't answer. Instead, Maya felt his hand drop beneath the table, stopping just inches from her face. Her breath halted. He didn't touch her. But his fingers curled lightly into the edge of the bench, and she understood what the gesture really meant. "Stay still. Stay quiet. I've got this." Her ex let out a frustrated groan, cursed loudly, then turned back toward the door. He shoved it open and disappeared into the rain, still shouting her name into the night. A long, excruciating silence filled the restaurant. Maya didn't move. Couldn't move. She waited for the stranger to yell at her. Demand she get out. Ask what the hell she thought she was doing. Instead, he reached down again, very slowly, and lifted the tablecloth with 2 fingers. His face appeared above her, calm and unreadable. His dark eyes studied her like she was a puzzle he hadn't expected but didn't mind solving. "You can come out now," he said quietly. Maya exhaled shakily and crawled out, cheeks flaming with embarrassment. She sat across from him, hands trembling on the table. "I'm sorry," she whispered. I didn't know where else to go." The stranger looked at her for a long moment. Rain tapped softly on the window beside them. "What's your name?" he asked. "Maya." He nodded once. "I'm Ji-hoon." His voice was deep, smooth, but his expression remained a mystery. Cool, distant, almost too composed. Yet he had hidden her without hesitation. She owed him more than she could ever explain. "I didn't mean to sit under your, Her face burned again. He didn't smile. But something in his eyes warmed. Just barely. "You were afraid," he said simply. "You did what you had to." Maya's throat tightened. Tears threatened to spill, but she blinked them back. "Do you know the man looking for you?" Ji-hoon asked. She swallowed hard. "He's my ex. He doesn't like when I leave." The muscles in Ji-hoon's jaw twitched once. "I see." There was a depth in his voice she couldn't read, a quiet danger, a promise of something she didn't understand yet. She finally asked the question that had been forming since she first hid under his table. "Why did you help me? You could have turned me away." Ji-hoon slowly picked up his chopsticks again, though he didn't take a bite. "Because," he said softly, "no man should hunt a woman like that. And no woman should ever have to crawl under a table to feel safe." Her breath hitched. Then he added, almost as an afterthought, "And because you sat beside me like you trusted me." "I didn't know who else to trust," she whispered. He nodded once, accepting that without asking for more. "Then," he said gently, "you're safe now." The way he said it, she believed him. Even before she knew who he really was. Even before she learned why the entire restaurant staff kept glancing at him with the wariness reserved for someone far more dangerous than a businessman. Even before she found out the truth. That Ji-hoon wasn't just a stranger in a suit. He was the Korean Mafia boss who ruled half the city. And he had just claimed responsibility for her safety. Maya's hands shook around the warm cup of barley tea the waitress brought to the table. She hadn't even ordered it. Ji-hoon just gave a small nod, and the staff hurried like his thoughts were commands. Maya tried not to notice how everyone avoided meeting his eyes. Or how they all glanced at her with a quick flicker of surprise, then fear, then sympathy. "Drink," Ji-hoon said softly. She lifted the cup and sipped. The flavor was earthy, unfamiliar, but grounding. She didn't realize how cold she had been until the warmth slid down her throat. "Thank you," she whispered. "You're trembling." She swallowed tightly. "I didn't think he'd find me so fast." Ji-hoon leaned back, his posture relaxed but his gaze sharp. "Has he hurt you before?" Maya stared at her tea. "He gets angry. Very angry. And when he does, he doesn't care who he hits." Ji-hoon's jaw tightened again, that subtle twitch she'd noticed earlier. It wasn't loud anger. It was worse. Controlled. Contained. like a man who knew how to wait for the right moment to act. "Do you have anywhere safe to go?" he asked. "I left my apartment," she whispered. "I grabbed my purse and ran." He had a key. He always has a key. Ji-hoon studied her for a long moment. Too long. She felt exposed under that gaze, like he could see every bruise the world had ever put on her. The waitress approached to clear the empty dishes from his table. Her hands were steady, but her eyes flickered nervously between them. "Boss," she murmured, bowing her head slightly. "Will you be needing anything else?" "Boss." Maya's gaze snapped to him. Ji-hoon didn't react. Not even a twitch. He simply gave the waitress a dismissive nod, and she hurried away. She swallowed. "Boss," she whispered. Ji-hoon didn't look at her. "It's a restaurant term," he said calmly. She raised a brow. "Aha. And I'm Beyoncé." A pause. Then, so slight she almost missed it, his lips curved. Not a smile. More like the idea of one. It softened his face for the span of a heartbeat before disappearing. "You're brave, Maya," he said. "And tired. You should eat something." Her stomach growled in betrayal. Ji-hoon lifted a hand. A waiter practically teleported to the table. "Bring her the beef bibimbap," he ordered. "And something sweet." The waiter nodded rapidly and hurried away. Maya blinked. "You don't have to." "I know," he interrupted, voice gentle. "But you ran through the rain with fear chasing you. The least you deserve is a hot meal." Her throat tightened. No one had spoken to her like that in a long time. Kindness felt unfamiliar. Terrifying, even. Her eyes drifted to the front window. Rain streaked down the glass in frantic slashes. "What if he comes back?" she whispered. "He won't," Ji-hoon said. She looked at him. Really looked. "Because you'll stop him?" "No," he turned his gaze toward the entrance, his expression becoming carved granite. "Because I told him not to." That shouldn't have comforted her. But somehow it did. The food came quickly, steaming and fragrant. Maya forced herself to take small bites at first, worried her stomach might revolt after all the adrenaline. But the warm rice, vegetables, and beef steadied her, grounding her in the safety of the moment. She caught Ji-hoon watching her, not in a creepy way, more like he was making sure she wouldn't faint again. "You're quiet," he murmured. "I'm trying not to fall apart," she whispered. "Fall apart if you need to," he said. "You survived something frightening. That takes a toll." Her eyes burned. "I can't cry in a restaurant." "You can," he said. "No one here will judge you." "No, but they'll stare." He shook his head once. "They won't." And he said it with such unshakable certainty that she believed him instantly. Maya took another bite and forced her tears back. She couldn't fall apart. Not yet. She had made it out, but she wasn't free. She looked at Ji-hoon again. "So, what do you do?" His answer came smoothly. Too smoothly. "I handle business." "Legal or illegal business?" she pressed. This time, the corner of his mouth lifted again. Another almost smile. "Does it matter right now?" "If you're someone dangerous," she whispered, "then maybe I shouldn't be sitting here." Ji-hoon didn't lean forward. Didn't lower his voice. He didn't need to. "Maya," he said quietly, "you came to me. You chose my table. And I protected you. If I wanted to hurt you, I already would have." Her skin tingled. Not from fear, from truth. He wasn't wrong. "And," he added, "if you truly want me to tell you what I am, I will. But I think you already know." She swallowed. Mafia. A soft exhale, almost like a laugh. A crude word. But accurate. Maya sat back. Her pulse thudded unevenly. She wasn't stupid. She knew there were men who held quiet power in this city. Men who didn't announce it. Men who didn't need to. Ji-hoon was one of them. "And you still helped me," she whispered. His eyes softened, not much, but enough that she felt the shift. Protecting someone who needs protection isn't a crime. Her breath hitched. You don't even know me. I know enough. She didn't know what to say to that. He continued, voice smoother now. You're scared. You're strong enough to run, but too kind to fight fire with fire. And you think you're alone. He paused. You're not. The words hit her harder than she expected. She stared down at her food, blinking away new tears. Why are you being so nice to me? She whispered. There was a long pause, longer than any he had taken yet. Then, quietly, because you looked at me like I wasn't a monster. She looked up sharply. Why would I think you're a monster? Maya. His gaze locked with hers. Everyone else does. Something in his voice, something hidden under the iron calm, made her chest tighten. She didn't see a monster. She saw a man who people feared, yes, but who had instinctively shielded a stranger with his own body. A man who hadn't hesitated when she begged for help. A man who spoke softly even when he didn't need to. I don't think that, she said softly. I don't see that. He inhaled slowly, like he wasn't used to hearing words like that. The waiter returned with a small bowl of sweet rice cakes for dessert. Maya reached for one, then froze when she glimpsed a shadow outside the window. Her ex. Standing under an umbrella, staring straight into the restaurant. Oh God, she breathed. Ji-hoon followed her gaze. His expression didn't change, didn't tense, didn't flicker. He simply stood. Every staff member in the restaurant went silent. He stepped beside the window, lifted his hand, and gestured once. Barely more than a flick of his fingers. Her ex's face drained of color. He stumbled back, nearly slipping on the wet sidewalk, then turned and ran, really ran, into the darkness. Maya stared at Ji-hoon, stunned. What did you do? She whispered. Nothing, he said calmly. He understood the message. But you didn't say anything. I didn't need to. Her heart pounded. Not from fear, but from the unmistakable realization dawning across her mind. This man wasn't just dangerous. He was powerful enough that even a violent abuser ran from a single gesture. Ji-hoon returned to his seat. Finish your dessert, he said gently. You're still safe. She didn't argue. Not because she wasn't scared, but because she was starting to believe him. After a few minutes, when her breaths finally steadied, he spoke again. Maya, he said softly. I'm not letting you walk back out into that rain alone. She blinked. Then, what do I do? He held her gaze for a long, quiet moment. You come with me. Her heart stopped. Not from fear. From something entirely, dangerously different. Maya followed Ji-hoon out of the restaurant on unsteady legs, the rain thinning to a mist that clung to her skin. The city around them glittered in the wet night, streetlights shimmering on the pavement. She hovered a few steps behind him, unsure, frightened, and yet steadier than she'd felt an hour ago. Ji-hoon paused beneath the restaurant's awning and looked back at her. You're cold, he said. A simple observation. Nothing tender. But somehow, it felt like the first real moment of softness she'd been offered in months. He shrugged off his suit jacket and draped it around her shoulders. The fabric was warm, smelling faintly of sandalwood and something darker, something like gunmetal and rain. She clutched it tighter. Where are we going? She asked. My car is nearby, he said. I'm taking you somewhere safe. What counts as safe for someone like you? She murmured. His lips twitched, another one of those fleeting almost smiles that seemed reserved only for her. Somewhere your ex wouldn't dare approach. That didn't entirely reassure her, but she kept walking. They rounded the corner, and a black sedan sat waiting under a street lamp. The driver stepped out immediately, bowing. Boss. Ji-hoon nodded. Drive. The driver opened the back door for Maya. She hesitated, staring at the plush leather interior. You can sit, Ji-hoon said quietly from behind her. You're not a hostage. Her breath shook. It feels strange, trusting you. It should, he replied. But trust doesn't have to be perfect. Only enough. Something about that, gentle but firm, made her step inside. Ji-hoon slid in beside her, and the car pulled away into the night. The city lights blurred past the windows as they drove. Ji-hoon sat with perfect posture, hands resting loosely on his knees, gaze forward. Maya watched him in the faint glow of passing street lamps. He didn't look like the kind of man who collected affection. He looked like someone who collected secrets. And yet he'd protected her. "So," she began, voice small, "where exactly are we going?" "To my penthouse." Her heart skipped. "Is that safe?" "For you." "Yes." "For you?" she asked quietly. He turned his head toward her, eyes steady. "I'm not worried." Maya swallowed. She wasn't sure if that made her more nervous or less. "Are you going to tell me why you helped me?" she whispered. He exhaled, slow and controlled. "Because I saw too much of myself in the way you ran." She blinked. "You? Running from someone? A long time ago." He didn't elaborate. "You needed a place to breathe. I can give you that." She looked down at her hands. "I don't want to cause problems for you." "You won't. And my ex? You don't even know him." "I know his kind," Ji-hoon said. "And I know that if he touches you again, he won't walk away from it." Her pulse stuttered. Not at the threat, but at the certainty behind it. No one had ever spoken on her behalf like that. Not once. She stared out the window again. "I don't want anyone hurt because of me." "You're not responsible for his choices," Ji-hoon said. "And I am not a man who lets danger circle the same place twice." Her throat tightened. "Thank you," she whispered. "You don't owe me thanks," he replied. "Just honesty." "Honesty about what?" "Your fear." His voice softened. "And what you need." She didn't answer. Not because she didn't know, but because speaking the truth out loud felt like stepping off a cliff. When the car stopped, she expected a sleek glass tower or some sprawling mansion. Instead, Ji-hoon lived in a tall, older building tucked between modern ones, quiet, dignified, and guarded by two men who bowed the moment he stepped out. "This way," he said. The lobby was empty and silent. The elevator required a key, which he slid in effortlessly. It whisked them to the top floor. When the doors opened, Maya froze. The penthouse wasn't lavish in the loud, showy way she'd imagined. It was warm, minimal. Dark wood, soft lighting, floor-to-ceiling windows showing the city sparkling below. A single bonsai tree sat near the glass like a small piece of peace he kept alive. "This is beautiful," she whispered. "It's quiet," he corrected. "I don't bring people here." She blinked. "Ever. Ever." The weight of that settled around her like another warm coat. "Sit," he said gently, pointing toward a soft gray sofa. She lowered herself onto it, unsure what to do with her hands. Ji-hoon set a kettle on the stove, his movements precise, quiet. "You drink ginger tea?" he asked. "I've never tried it." "You'll like it." She smiled faintly. "You sound very sure." "I am." He prepared 2 cups and brought them to the coffee table. Maya wrapped her hands around the warm ceramic, letting the steam steady her breath. "Tell me," he said, sitting across from her, elbows on his knees. "How long were you with him?" 2 years, she whispered. 2 years of fear? His voice stayed calm, but she felt the simmer underneath. It wasn't always bad. But when it was terrible. Ji-hoon nodded slowly, absorbing every word like it mattered. "And tonight?" he asked. "He showed up at my job screaming. I panicked. I ran. I didn't have a plan. And you ended up in the restaurant." She nodded. His eyes softened in a way she wasn't used to seeing from strangers, especially men. "Then fate was kind tonight." "Kind." She let out a soft, shaky laugh. "I hid between your legs under a table." A real smile, small but unmistakable, touched his mouth. You were scared, he said. Fear makes us do strange things. I wasn't offended. You weren't surprised? She asked. Oh, I was surprised. The warmth in his voice startled her, but not annoyed. She felt heat rise to her cheeks. I must have looked ridiculous. Not ridiculous, he said. Just desperate and brave. Brave doesn't feel like the right word. It is. He leaned back. You left. That's bravery. Silence settled between them, comfortable and fragile all at once. Maya took a small sip of tea. So what happens now? Ji-hoon folded his hands. Now you rest. And tomorrow, we figure out what you want. What I want? Your life, he said. Your safety. Your future. You get to choose all of it. Her breath trembled. No one's ever said that to me. You deserve to hear it. Another long silence. She felt his gaze on her, not possessive, not invasive, just watchful. Protective. What about you? She asked softly. Why are you really being kind to me? Ji-hoon looked toward the city lights for a moment, as if searching for the right words. Because, he said finally, I don't often meet someone who looks at me without fear. And I don't want you to fear me. I don't, she whispered. He turned back to her, expression softening in a way she suspected very few people ever saw. Good, he said. Then stay here. At least for tonight. You're safe. She exhaled shakily. I don't know how to thank you. You don't need to thank me. He stood slowly. Just don't run anymore. Not from me. Her heart fluttered. Not with fear. With something warm. Something fragile. Something that felt dangerously like the beginning of trust. He extended a blanket to her. Rest. I'll be here. She curled into the sofa, the city lights painting soft reflections across the room. Her eyes grew heavy, but her chest felt lighter than it had in years. Before sleep pulled her under, she heard Ji-hoon's voice, quiet, almost a whisper meant only for her. You're safe, Maya. I promise. And she believed him. For the first time in a long time, she slept without fear.